Greetings, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we are blessed again to have another content creator. This is our friend Sergio Halabi. And I forgot to ask if it was okay to say where you are in the world.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. I forgot. Can you tell?
Yeah, no problem. I'm in Bahrain at the moment. Bahrain.
Oh, that is fantastic. And I really love being able to talk to people, and I have, from all over the world. This is universal. Dreams are universal to the human condition. We all have them everywhere, no matter where we live, what language we speak. So it's great to be getting these different perspectives. I love it. Sergio Halabi, he is the host of the podcast Paradigm Shift, and you can also find him on Instagram at paradigm.shift.experience, and I'll put all the links in the description below. And as per my usual process, we're just going to jump right in. Sergio's going to share his dream with us, and we're going to see what we can figure out. So go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you so much. Actually, I feel like I'm going to have a challenge for you this episode, because my dream... I personally go into a lot of philosophical and spiritual stuff that usually matter to me a lot. And while dreams usually have a lot of like a psychological explanation based on experiences or what we've been through, this dream in specific, the one I want to talk about, is very, very different than anything I've ever had. I usually have vivid dreams, recurring dreams. I've had, like, since I was a kid, I would have like nightmares, they're recurring for years and years. But this one in specific happened nearly around 6 or 7 years ago. And it's one of those things that stay with you, like they just stuck. And in the dream, I actually experienced a sort of an NDE, a near-death experience within my dream. And so what happened was, all I know is that it started with me walking on some sort of a beach side. And there was, on my left is the beach, and there's like people walking, there are children playing, just regular stuff. On my right side, there are these restaurants and coffee shops. And I'm on this wooden walkway, just, strolling within that universe. And out of nowhere, I feel someone came from behind me and stabbed me in my back. So they stabbed me in a very specific place, which I'll talk about a bit later. But they stabbed me and they kept running away, so I couldn't see who they were. Now, when I felt the pain, and like my whole back kind of like went to spasm, and I fell to the ground, I looked to my right and saw all these people who were sitting in a restaurant, and I was trying to call them, but they didn't look at me. They didn't hear me calling out. Then out of nowhere, I looked to my left, and there was this young boy and young girl who were playing, and they were playing with a ball. And they looked at me and they saw me. So they dropped the ball and they ran towards me. And the moment that they put their hands on me, I realized what was happening, that I was dying, and that this boy and girl were like two angels. So I immediately connected, everything that was happening, and it just made a lot of sense to me at that moment that this is what was happening. And I remember that the girl sat behind me. She kneeled down and put my head on her lap. And while the boy was sitting next to me, holding my hands with his hand, like he was just holding my hand. And they were both telling me, it's okay, don't worry, you're fine, you're going home, everything will be okay. And the moment that they said that to me, I had this unbelievable, it was overwhelming feel of peace, and it was euphoric. And it was like, I felt, it doesn't even hurt anymore. It doesn't feel like I'm worried or scared, or I just knew that this is a process, that this is like a passage that I'm going through. And it just felt like I'm really like I'm going home. And I remember that it was really fast, but at the same time, it was really slow. So I can't really explain it. But I remember that I started seeing on the, like next to the walkway, so on that beach, I started seeing everyone I knew in my life, and everyone was just looking at me. So no one was talking, no one was saying anything. They were just looking at me, but we kind of like understood what was happening. So we all were at such peace that honestly, I haven't experienced before, and I haven't experienced since. It was just like, felt like everything was happening the way it was meant to happen. And I didn't want it to end. Like it was something that I just wanted to keep experiencing and keep experiencing. But sadly, I woke up right after that. And what's weird about what's stuck with me since that dream is that there's a spot in my back that till now is very sensitive. So I discovered that I have a very soft spot. After that, within a year or two, I went for a full body massage. And whenever the masseuse would massage that part, I would completely I couldn't move. It was like paralyzing. And I had my girlfriend, this was a couple of months ago because it came up again. And I had her record how my muscle reacts when someone touches that part. And it actually it moves. My muscle, it's like it was injured and it moves. So I can't have anyone touching that area, even if I'm touching it myself, like right now. It becomes, it's a very weird feeling. And I didn't have this before that. And since then I actually became more interested in these kind of topics. And I interviewed, this is not about the dream anymore. So sure. I don't know if you want to, if I should continue.
No, that's or not. Okay. You can say a little bit more.
Yeah. So, but just that I spoke with a very close woman, an older woman who actually went to a cardiac arrest, and she kind of died for 20 minutes. And she talks about an experience that she went through as well, a NDE, and she described most of the stuff same as me. And this has happened after I actually had the dream, where she was talking about the same level of peace and how she knew where she is and how she was surrounded by people and felt all the love and everything. So I just wanted to bring that out. And that's the dream.
Okay. Very cool. Very interesting. Yeah. And as I've said in other videos, dreams don't have to be very long for us to have a very intense experience out of it. And there's some theories that say dreams are typically very short. And even if they seem like they last for hours, it's not actually hours of our nighttime that are occupied in actively dreaming. But there's controversy about that, different people, different opinions, but it's some ongoing theories about that. So is it okay to say where exactly that spot is in your back? Do you have a description for it?
I don't know exactly how to describe, but it's in the middle of my back, and it's on my right side.
Okay.
So just next to my spine. So I used to think that it was my spine, which is very sensitive, but I realized that no, it's actually that specific spot right next to the spine. That is, when I recall the dream, it was exactly where I dreamt that the knife went in. So basically, I don't know.
So it's definitely above your hips, below your rib cage, in that area.
Yes,
I'm actually kind of feeling around in there too.
Behind my rib cage, right under my rib cage, exactly under my rib cage.
Okay, and that's the first of three parts. So the second one, we go back and go through it again and start asking for additional details. But this is a good place to start, is kind of where exactly the damage occurred. And just in terms of linking it to real life, because it seems like this crosses over to you're having a dream experience and you're having a physical experience. Have you, or are you aware of any injury to that part prior to the dream?
No.
And was it?
I have. When I was a kid, I fell. Sorry, I thought.
Go ahead.
I couldn't hear you. I said that when I was a kid, I fell. I was pushed onto a bed actually, but the part where it hit my back, but it's much lower where that, and I still have a small scar there. On my back, but this muscle and where that feeling is, it's much higher. So because the scar is right above my hip, it's on my hip actually.
Okay. I wonder if there is a connection there. Have you done any research in terms of looking at anatomy and physiology books and trying to see if there's tendons connected or other things?
Not really, but the reason why it came up a few months ago is because I was having some pain in my neck, and I went to an osteopath, and he was actually working on my body, and he noticed what's happening with that muscle, and he couldn't explain it. I was like, oh, right, I have an issue with that muscle. I completely had forgotten. But he was also really surprised. Did something happen here? Were you injured or did you fall? I'm like, no, honestly, I didn't tell him anything because I hadn't connected everything at the time.
Gotcha.
But but he also found it very weird that there is no physical scar or any kind of problem with that area itself.
Good deal. Yeah. And I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was, a previous injury. So I asked about that. And you're like, somewhere in that region on that same side, but much lower. And then my immediate connection to that, just in pure biological terms, was maybe some connective nerve damage that's still triggering something. I don't know. I am not a doctor. And as I say to folks, this is not therapy. So if you need therapy, go see a real doctor. This is for entertainment purposes only, even if we have fun with it, and we often get to a good place with it. Okay, so that was just my curiosity off the bat, but then we go actually back through the dream. So to put myself in seeing out of your eyes, you are walking kind of down a boardwalk, wooden slats, and then you're seeing, you said on your left is the beach and the ocean, and then on the right is shops, a row of businesses. And you mentioned seeing a so. My curiosity would be initially, what were you seeing any particular colors? Was this dream in color at all? Some people do, some people don't.
It was in color. Yes, it was in color. All I can think of is just the light brown of the wood. The shops were white. There is some greenery, some of these trees, palm trees or something like that, though I can't really be sure. I just remember a bit of green. And honestly, I don't, now that I think of it, I don't remember seeing the sea itself or the ocean. I remember knowing that it was there. So I'm mostly seeing just the sand, the white sand, but not any blue or actual beach. Yeah.
Okay. That may be interesting. That was also going to be my next question was, what was the ocean doing? And what the ocean was doing was it was gone. The image of it was not there, in that sense. Which
exactly. I just knew I was there, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's often very much how dreams work too. Is we just know things, and that knowing of that certainty about something is every bit as real as images and sounds or sensations that appear. There's I don't know if you're familiar with this at all, that we have actually many more than 6 senses, or five senses, touch, taste, smell, and whatnot. We also have one of my favorite go-to examples is the sensation known as proprioception, which is just the sense of your body in space, physically, which is what allows you to say, close your eyes and touch your nose, because you know where your nose is in relation to your hand and whatnot. So there's actually there's cool. Actually other senses we have, and that sense of knowing is a sense in and of itself, that's very metaphysical too. That a sense of meaning or purpose is also kind of a very real sensation.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. There's a very broad. And then we think of physical senses, and that's also true. But then we have these other sensations that fit in that category. Anyway, so
that's a topic by itself.
It is. Yeah, I can ramble too. I'm sorry. But I'm as fascinated by these things as anybody else. So I'm glad to have you here with your fascination as well. That this is the subject matter of your podcast as well. These very interesting ideas, because
exactly.
That's one of the best things in the world, is just an interesting idea. I'm like, whoa! I love to just blow my own mind.
Right?
Considering
Exactly.
strange things. Yeah.
Literally, the purpose of my podcast is to have people go, I did not think of it like that. Like, I
Yeah.
could not be saying anything real, right? Like maybe whatever I'm saying completely like is made up or whatever. Just the idea that there is something, like you could think of it like this. How about this way? I'm like,
Yeah.
that to me is the best reaction I would get from anyone listening to.
For sure.
my
Me too. I
podcast.
love that. Well, people go,
Yeah.
whoa, I never thought of that. Yeah. That's part of it. And I've said this in previous episodes. That's part of the reason why I do this too, is to see that in people's eyes when I offer them an idea and they're like, oh, that makes sense. You're like, oh yeah. I love that. I love that experience.
Yeah.
So, okay, back to the actual dream. So, you said you saw people and children playing on the beach. Did you, again, just have a sense that they were there, or kind of a vague image, or do you remember them doing anything specific? They're playing with a ball, they're building a sandcastle. What did your mind put there?
Nothing specific other than the ball with the two children, because I had seen them before I got stabbed. So they were there already. That is very clear to me that they were already there. It was there were shapes of people, like very vague and blurry, but there was the sound, like there was a crowd sound, so I could definitely hear that there's a lot of people walking, just, doing things and everything, but they were just very blurry, except for the two children. Even the same thing is for the people who are in the restaurant. So I could, because the way they were built is glass doors, and some people are sitting outside, and you can imagine that scene. Okay, so I could see them sitting and there, but again, it's just noise on both sides, and vague, blurry, shadowy figures everywhere in color, but only those two were there, the two children.
Okay, but they were very clear. And did you at that moment have a sense that they were paying any attention to you, or that they were aware of you at all?
No, they were not aware of me at the time, but they did. All I know is that they did grab my attention. So I do remember looking at them before anything happened.
Okay.
I do remember that there was a point where the two of them are there. And I think it was that moment when I felt like someone stabbed me.
Okay. And it was almost immediately after kind of noticing that the boy and girl were there that suddenly this presence and the stabbing sensation.
Yes.
And you never got a sense of or a visual image of the person who did it, or did you see them as they ran away, or
No, the person, all I know is that they kind of moved very fast from behind me till in front of me. They just moved past me very fast. In split second, they had stabbed me and continued. So there was no moment where they actually stopped and did it. So it was they were walking, and then he put the knife and continued walking. And I don't have any vision of them. I only know, I think he was wearing a hat, if I'm not mistaken, but that's it. There's no face, there's no knowledge of who he could be or anything around him.
Not a lot of strong distinguishing features. Gotcha. And you said this person was moving towards you from the front, or they came up from behind you?
They came from behind me. I did not see them. So I only felt the stab, and then they ran across from me. They ran right past me. That's when I noticed anything related, if there's a hat or something, but that's it. There was no face or nothing else.
Okay. And did you get a sense of what had stabbed you, or you just felt the sensation of a sharp stabbing pain?
I felt the sensation of a stab. Yeah. I think at the time I knew it was a knife. I think, I'm not sure if I remember this detail correctly or not, but I think I did kind of remove it from my back. I do remember kind of knowing where it is and pulling it out, but then I immediately dropped it. I just remember seeing a bit of blood. Actually, I saw blood. Yes, there was blood on my hands.
Okay.
And it kind of when I fell to the floor, I also saw blood on the floor around me.
Okay. And that was going to be my next reference, that you felt the sudden pain and like a spasm, and your reaction to it was to kind of collapse. How did you fall to the ground? I mean, in my mind, it's not obvious that you fell just face forward or anything. Fell to your knees.
No, I get the question. Actually, I kind of like leaned forward and went down on both my hands, and I was like both my hands and my knees were on the floor, so to the front basically.
Okay.
And because I remember that sensation of trying to crawl. So I was in that position, and I tried to move myself a little bit in those moments.
And you said initially you called out to the people in the restaurants.
Yes.
So that was the direction you crawled first.
Yes.
And
exactly.
How far did you make it? How quick were you moving? What was your sense of that?
What I remember is that I kind of turned a bit to the right and tried to, and I remember there was a small staircase leading to one of the restaurants, also wooden. So I remember that I tried to grab the first step and tried to pull myself towards those people. And at that time, it was immediate where I realized that they're not hearing me. They cannot hear me, or they're not going to answer. But I actually turned a bit to the right and tried to reach out.
Okay. So you never made it beyond just kind of putting your hand on the step.
Exactly.
And that's when you realized this is not getting a reaction. These people aren't responding.
Yes.
Do you have any image at all of what the people were doing at the moment you were trying to call out to them?
They had completely no idea I was there. So they weren't looking at me. They just carried on normally. There was no reaction to what was happening. They didn't see me, hear me, anything. It was just the same blurry figures of people like eating, that they were on a table, and they were like a group of people, and they were just like continuing normally. No reaction, nothing.
Okay. So it was more than one person, and they were engaged in a meal as you would find one in a restaurant.
Yes.
Could have been they were doing something else strange at that very moment, but it was just a very normal action of carrying on with their lives. And they were just eating as one would expect. So that's something I call rattling doorknobs. That one didn't come open. Nothing unusual there, but could have been. Yeah, you never know. We got this interesting detail of crawling towards stairs. That was we always find something new going through the second pass. That's why I do it. I can't analyze dreams in text. Like send me an email. I can't tell you. We got to talk about it. But also that second pass, those extra details that are there. They were always there, but until you kind of get your mind wrapped around it, then they come out. That's when we start getting something like
it's true. Yeah, I agree, because I'm remembering more details that I did not say the first time I said.
And nobody can. I mean, imagine trying to get every single detail. Like you can't do it on your own. That's that's why it's very hard for me to say. If I tried, I don't really dream much myself. I mean, lately, I've been aware that I've had dreams. Little like an image will come back and like, oh, I dreamed that last night. I can't remember anything but just that thing. Nothing else of coherence comes through. I don't remember the whole thing. I just don't remember my dreams, which is partly why I'm fascinated by other people's dreams. Like, what is going on there? What am I not experiencing?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Part of my fascination for sure. So where did you go from there, or did you go anywhere from there? Is that kind of where you stopped moving?
Yeah. I didn't go anywhere. When I realized that that no one's listening to me, no one can hear me, I kind of gave up hope. So I remember that it was then when I flipped on my back. But the moment I flipped on my back from that position that I was in, so I'm flipping, is when I saw the two kids running towards me.
Okay.
And that's when they ran towards me. So I'm still in the same place, and that's it. I knew I can no longer move anymore. Even if I wanted to, I had lost all senses of my body, basically.
Okay. And at that moment, you would say you also, just to be clear, you lost, say, maybe control of your body, like you couldn't move anymore, or you lost sensation, as in you weren't even in pain anymore?
Sensation. I wasn't even in pain anymore.
Okay.
Hello? Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Do you remember, you said earlier they were playing with a ball on the beach. Did they bring it with them?
Yeah. No, they threw it and they ran towards me. That is very clear.
Where did they throw the ball?
Like they just completely dropped it.
Just dropped it. Okay.
Dropped it. Just dropped it.
I don't know if that's important or not. It seems interesting to me. It's they put down a plaything to go do something more important. Interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you remember anything about the features of the children? Age, height,
so I could
clothing?
easily tell for some weird reason. It's like I knew how old they were. Okay, I don't know why, but I know that they were 10 and 8, and it's the girl is 10 and the boy was 8. That was clear to me, and I don't know why. I just knew it from the dream. Like when I was experiencing it, it's like I could feel how old they were, both of them, and they were. I don't remember any distinctive features. I just know that they had like black hair. Okay. The girl had like mid to long hair, nothing more than that, and the boy just regular boy cut. Don't remember their clothes. Don't have too many details towards how they look like. I just knew their ages. That's it.
Okay, that is interesting too. That might be something specific. Why would your mind put that in there instead of leaving it, say, indistinct? It was these specific ages, maybe for a reason, maybe not. Could be iconic of something, or it could be something personal to you. We'll see. And then what you described them doing.
Girl was behind me.
Yeah. And you said they kind of put their hands on you now, and that's when you had another experience of knowing something about them. But
yes,
but they didn't like say both run up to you and put their hands on your chest. Like they went to those positions of her comforting you, laying your head in her lap, and the boy taking one hand or both hands.
One hand.
And the girl, did she?
It took one hand, and
go ahead.
She kind of like she put her head, my head on her lap, but she kind of like had also her hand on top of my temple like this. So it was kind of like, like when you do to a child when he's like scared or worried.
Patting
she was really nurturing, basically.
Yeah,
exactly. So she was really nurturing, and just like she was like trying to give me that sensation of safety. Yeah. And like that, it's okay. So she was like patting my head and like, rubbing it gently, and everything's fine. And he was just, I was holding on with my hand to both his hands. So he was holding with both his hands, my right hand. Okay. He was holding it, and he's just like, hanging on tight to it while she was like just rubbing my head.
Okay. And when you had flipped over at that bottom stair, was your head resting on the bottom stair?
No,
do you remember that?
It was basically because I hadn't reached, my head did not reach the stair. So it was only my hand when I tried to reach out long, and I put it on the stair. But when I couldn't do anything, I just completely flipped on the side. So I pushed myself away from the stairs, basically.
Gotcha. Rolled the opposite direction. Yes, and the children didn't interact with the stairs at all?
No, no. They actually, it kind of felt like they knew that those people were not listening to me, and they did not find it weird or make a comment. It's like they had a role to play in that moment, and they were completely like engulfing me with all this, attention and care, and kind of like, and actually when they did that, everything else started to fade away anyway. So I no longer could hear that noise of the people, and I don't recall even thinking about them anymore. So to me, there was nothing else other than me and those two children. That was it. That's all that existed in that moment.
Okay. Faded away. And then you remember them. Which one of them spoke to you and told you it's going to be okay, you're going home?
It was actually the boy. The boy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the one. He was comforting me with words. He was saying things like, "Don't worry, it's okay. It will end soon. You're going home." Stuff like that. And it felt he was really like empathetic to what I was going through. So he wasn't like, scared or doing anything. He was just like completely understanding and just like walking me through it. You know what I mean? Like if I actually did die, it was like someone who was sitting and just like every moment telling me that now it's going like this, now this is happening, I'm here with you, like that.
Okay. And it was when they first touched you, or when the boy started speaking, that you had that initiation of the sense of like overwhelming peace and euphoria?
Yeah, I get the question. It was actually when they first touched me. Like the moment that I laid my head on her lap and he took my hand, I immediately like knew who they were and just let go. I started letting go. So he immediately started talking. So there wasn't too much time between me resting my head and him telling me to calm down and everything's okay. It was really like one after the other. But it's the moment that they had reached me and they had taken those positions is when I kind of like felt that peace come into me.
Yeah, and I forgot to ask actually before that, from the moment of being, actually maybe to back it up a little bit, there's kind of three different sections here. One is, were you having any experience of emotions or thoughts before the stabbing, emotions or thoughts after stabbed, and then now we're getting into emotions and thoughts as you're being comforted by the boy and girl? So maybe start with before. I hate to take you out of it and bring you back to the beginning again, but before the stabbing, what were you thinking, feeling, anything?
Honestly, there was nothing that stands out. Maybe I was feeling something, but nothing from memory. So I don't remember any emotion at all. Okay. All I know is just like I'm just walking, just random walk, nothing special. It felt like a familiar place, but I was alone and there was no emotions regarding it. It was just like, because actually that was like the shortest part of the dream anyway. This whole me walking is like a split second, before everything kind of happened. So I don't think I even processed any emotion at the time.
Sure.
But I know that the moment of the stabbing, me falling on the floor, seeing the blood, trying to call out for help, crawling and grabbing the stair, there was intense fear, fear and fear, worry, pain in my body. It was like, I'm processing the fact that I'm dying. So I'm like, this is it. This is happening. It's real. This is how I'm going to die, like that. So it kind of like, the emotion was way too strong. And definitely the feeling of helplessness as well. So because I couldn't do anything, no one was listening or reacting to me. But at the same time, I wasn't really surprised why they were not looking at me or answering me. So I don't really know what kind of emotion that is or how to explain it. But I was like, okay, like I immediately moved on to just like rolling to my back. And the moment they came in, which is the third part of the dream, there was this immense feeling of peace and acceptance, like letting go. Like I said, it was euphoric, basically. Like it was like a transcendence of emotion.
Yeah.
And everything went away. My physical pain went away. My fear, there was nothing anymore.
Yeah. And do you remember the process? So it started, say, they reached you, assumed their positions. They started offering their comforts in the girl physically patting your head, the boy with words and holding your hand. And then the fading of the external sights and sounds, so to speak, the crowd noise going away and the scene isolating itself to you and these children. And then the peace and the calm and the euphoria overcome you. And then do you remember dying or just waking up in that euphoric?
Yeah. So no, there was no actual death.
Okay.
After the comfort and the peace and all that, I understood that I'm dying. I made my peace with death, and I wanted it actually. So, but not wanting it from a sad or depressed place, or like I want to escape life. It was actually like just welcoming this next phase of existence, if you want to call it, or whatever. So the way I looked at it is very different from other moments, low moments or whatever I had in my life. That was a very different approach to death in that moment. And I remember that I started seeing basically people from my life.
Oh, that's right. There was that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So they started appearing, and I don't remember any specific people. Okay. So there was no, like, I know, oh, that's my mom, or that's my sister. No. So all I know that this is a group of people that have known me all my life. They just were surrounding me, and they were just, and it was a moment of where it's a mutual acceptance. So they were also accepting what was happening, and it felt like they're guiding me, and they're gonna be there for me just so that I pass on, and then they will let go. Did you watch a movie called Big Fish?
That a long time ago, yeah, but I remember it. Yeah.
So if you remember, there's a scene at the end where the main character, like he's describing his death, and he's walking through a forest, and he starts seeing everyone who has ever seen in his life, and they're all just like very happy for him. They're encouraging him, like, you go ahead, okay, yalla, bye, take care, like that. So it's that moment. It felt like everyone was cheering me and like happy for me, basically, that this is happening right now.
Okay, good deal. And just to be clear, you said you express it as a sense of knowing that these were people from your life, but you don't have a specific visual image of that's my mother, that's my father, that's my...
No one specific, no one, just that I know these people and they know me.
And how big would you say that crowd was? 5 people, 20 people, 100 people?
Actually, it's around, like, I think between 20 to 50 people.
Okay, so big crowd.
Yeah.
That may be
because they were also like
well.
far from each other, so there was like an immediate group surrounding me, but I could also see like they were standing far, and like the circle is bigger, like that's far.
Okay, kind of rows of people in a big group.
Yes, exactly.
Very interesting. And then it's after that when you got kind of their final blessing, their attendance at your passing. That's when you woke up.
Yes.
Okay.
That's when I woke up. Once I got that blessing, I woke up in my bed.
Yeah, and then your experience upon waking was this sense of euphoria carried over a little bit, or there was an immediate sense of what did you feel as soon as you woke up?
Yeah, basically there was an immediate feeling of like I don't know how to explain it. It was like kind of falling back to earth. I don't know what
interesting
what words I could use. So it was like I kind of felt like I just fell back into my bed, and like it was really difficult to come to wake up. So it felt like it took me a moment to kind of figure out where I am. And okay, so I had to like talk to myself, like, I'm in my bedroom, I'm in my bed, this was a dream, like that. But it took longer in that moment than other times when I woke up. Even when I wake up from like heavy, vivid dreams, this was different. And I felt very heavy, like my body was so heavy. It just like, it was like a chore just to kind of like roll in bed, or like, just kind of like understand where I am. And I had the feeling in my back. So it was really like my back was stinging at the exact moment. But it felt like the one in my back, it felt like a memory, like a memory of a pain. I don't know how to kind of like explain it, but it's kind of like an old injury that came back, something like that.
Okay.
So, because I've broken before my leg and my shoulder and my rib, I've broken a lot of pieces of my body. Yeah, and I know that feeling of like, the bone never really heals, right? Like even 10 years later, like you can still feel something,
an ache where the break happened, and it just kind of comes back a little bit to say, I'm still here, I'm still healing, or never going to be the same.
Exactly.
Interesting.
It's just a reminder. So it felt like it's an old wound that kind of reopened or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we've let me do this here real quick. 40, 32. I don't know. I usually shorten these up a little. We had such a great little conversation in the middle there too. I mean, I guess anyone who's watching the shortcut of this should probably go back and watch the whole thing. I cut out that second part sometimes to let people, you want to watch an hour video instead of a 2-hour video, that's fine. Give the viewers some options, but this one, I don't know, I have a hard time cutting anything.
Yeah.
So that's
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. It's all fascinating. I'd rather have more to talk about than just be whistling at the wall. That's the end of the second pass, basically. So we opened up a bunch of new stuff, and then we get into, okay, what the heck does all that mean? The first thing I usually like to ask people is, now that you've been through it a second time and you remembered some specific things that maybe weren't on the top of your mind when you went through it the first time, is there anything new that occurs to you in terms of the meaning, in terms of connections you made, before I start making my own suggestions?
I mean, I don't know from which aspect you would be asking the question, whether it's from like a psychological one, a spiritual one, or whatever. To me, I would think that, because I've tried to analyze it so much,
Sure.
You know what I mean? So now I've remembered some new details, but I've never been able to get any kind of like a concrete answer, or I just know that it kind of like put me on a path, like I woke up a different person, like
Sure.
My interests, like I've always been interested in anything that is beyond and the metaphysical, and Matrix is my number one movie ever, all time.
That's in my top 10. Always. Yeah.
That movie like changed me. I watched it when I was 15, and like I remember coming out of the cinema, I was like, I'm a new person. Like it really changed my life. Like that's the only movie that ever made that much impact.
Well, we were talking about that earlier. That's the mind blown by ideas you've never considered before. That's what the Matrix did. Exactly. Mostly, it said, here's a bunch of things that it will change the way you see the world. The world isn't different. Now you have new eyes, in a way, is kind of how I put it.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is the perception, basically, how, because the whole world is how you perceive it. It's not what it really is. It's just, each person sees it in a different way. But so when it came to that dream itself, I did feel that afterwards, my research and my interests have deepened and became much more wanted to know exactly like what could this mean. I've started researching near-death experiences. I've spoken with people. It was interesting to me how things happened after the dream.
For sure. Yeah. And it does seem like that. I mean, the first thing sort of when I asked you if you thought about it, you came to the Matrix thing. We talked about the eye-opening thing, and it seems like this did spark an interest or represented some kind of a turning point in your in a more spiritual quest. And you asked about do I look at things from a psychological or spiritual perspective? I think in my understanding of psychology is that it encompasses the entire human experience, which is we're spiritual creatures, at least in our quest for understanding and trying to put the pieces together of what we experience around us. So I don't discount any of that. I don't know what to do with lucid dreams or prophetic dreams. That's not my specialty, but I don't discount it either. I'm like, there's a whole range of the paranormal. And I'm like, what if people are psychic? I don't know.
Which I've had those,
maybe they are. Yeah,
I've had lucid dreams before, and I've had prophetic dreams before, and I've had all of those. So like,
I wish I could tell you what to do with that. I got no idea. That's way outside. I'm like, but that just blows my mind. I'm like, that's cool. I have no comment. I don't know what to do. But this is this in terms of being representative. Yeah, this seems like it was important to you. So maybe what was on your mind prior to that is searching for an answer, or at least a direction, an understanding of what you want to know. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it. Does that bring something?
I get it. I get what you mean. I got what you mean. Yeah, it's like, because you could be interested in stuff, but given the nature of those stuff, because it's not like if I'm going into the spiritual or the philosophical aspect, there is no physical proof of anything, right? So it could it's just like thoughts and ideas and experiences, and you always kind of like have these, thoughts in your head, like, is this real, or is just making everything up, or like this kind of thing. So I've always been fascinated by that, but I've never actually, it was never concrete to me that yes, pursue this, there is something there, even not on the physical realm, for example, or anything like that. Like, there is some knowledge there somewhere that you need to delve into.
Yeah.
So that dream kind of like brought that, kind of like pushed me there.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I conceive of dreams, is like it's, which makes it difficult to address the prophetic or lucid side of things. Cause the way I conceive of it is definitely, every dream has a reason it happened and a meaning it's conveying, in the sense that you have thoughts and desires and human experiences in the daytime. And when you shut down your external senses and you're in your mind completely and cut off from the physical, that's when you kind of process all that experience and you try and decide how you understand it. So that's kind of my understanding of dreams in general, is that it's this like your brain's doing a little puzzle in the dark. Like, does that go there? I don't know. How about over here? What picture does that form if I put these pieces together in this way?
Yeah.
So I was going to ask if you said this dream happened about 6 or 7 years ago. What were you going through? Oh, we're about to get a kitty visitor. Don't walk on the keyboard. Don't walk on the keyboard. This is Cece. Keep walking, son. Keep walking. Hi.
I think she knows whenever you're. I think she knows when you're recording to pass by in front of her.
Oh yeah, for sure. This one's been sleeping on top of the computer. I'm like, don't hit the power button, please. Please don't hit the power button. But I don't want to be mean because there's the exhaust fans and the cat's happy and warm. I'm like, that's good. Just sleep. So okay.
Choices.
Yeah, I know, right? That's okay. So I was going to ask if anything happened specifically 6 or 7 years ago that was leading you towards this type of an experience in your dreams, where this is the puzzle, the picture that the puzzle put together.
To be honest, not really, because I usually do notice these things. So I would, like, if I'm going through something and I have a dream about it, or have a dream which is like weird or whatever, I would wake up and start thinking like, okay, why did I have this dream? What does it mean? Is it because I'm going through this or something? So I usually do make notes of specific stuff. But for this one, I don't recall that there was anything out of the ordinary, or something more stressful, or something more happy, or just like normal night, went to sleep, woke up, like that. So
fair enough.
There wasn't anything specific.
No specific traumatic event, etc. No. But was this a period in your life where you were starting to consider the philosophical and the spiritual more? Is this a time in your life when that kind of started to become more interesting, relevant for some reason?
Well, I mean, it's always been interesting and relevant to me. So ever since like I was a teenager. I think it was actually the opposite. I think maybe around that time it was kind of dying down. So I got more busy with life. I had at the time I was married, so I actually gotten married and moved to another country, and like life took over. And at the time, things were kind of like became a bit mundane, if you want.
Sure.
Like, so it was, I wasn't in active pursuit of anything philosophical or spiritual or anything.
Fair enough.
Just like going through life. So it was kind of like a re-spark of it, actually.
Yeah. And it was actually the opposite. It wasn't that these things had become more important. It's that they had become less, I won't say less important, because there might be something going on there with the idea that they had become less active in your life.
Yes.
And so maybe you even felt the lack of it. And so this dream maybe came back to say, don't forget, these things are still important to you. that is possibly something. And when you say mundane too, is like we get into the daily grind. I wake up, I go to work, I come home, I have dinner, I go to bed. Was this all there is? And then we start looking at maybe there's more to life, and there's more purpose and meaning. So maybe the idea of falling into that grind, and then this dream comes back to say these things are still important to you. What are you doing? Are you going to do anything about it or not? That might be in terms of why the dream came back or why it occurred.
That makes sense, because it also like justifies how intense it was, because it kind of needed like a to shake me.
Hey,
like,
wake up.
Yeah. I'm still here. Or like, if it was just like a regular dream, I would be like, okay, just like I'll go back to my normal life. But this was like, whoa, what just happened? So that does make sense.
And if there's if I'm remembering my Freud correctly, I'm probably going to feel free out there to tear me up in the comments if anyone hears me say this and it's wrong. But I think there's a Freudian concept called a reaction formation, which has to do with repressing certain things, and then that pops up in other ways. I might be getting the terminology confused, but if you say attempt to forcibly keep some ideas out of your mind and you choose a certain path, you're like, I'm not going to worry about that right now. If they remain important to you, they can be suppressed, but then the intensity of the rebound that you experienced in this dream may relate it to how deeply you compressed the spring when it got loose and came back. So it might have something to do with it.
It makes sense. Yeah, that kind of needs to bounce back to where it originally was. Like it was suppressed for a long time or heavily. Like it needs to shoot back up. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and we all kind of suppress things. We have to every day. There's only so many things you can pay attention to. We have a fantastic new term that's come into my awareness over the last few years, is the idea of mental bandwidth. You can only upload and download so much information in your brain at a time, and you hit your limit of like, I can't process anymore. This is as much as I can handle. And your brain has to also kind of prioritize. Well, is this more important or is that? And then it gives like priority content management in a way. So you can only do so much. But in terms of the specific imagery of the dream, so we talked about the general idea of what was maybe happening in your life at the time and why it came around, but then why in this form? Why was this form important to communicate this message? It is interesting that you say you put it on, your brain put you on a beach where there was no ocean. I still don't know what to make of it. It was there, but it was not seen. Interesting. But then a beach of happy people doing their thing. I mean, they weren't screaming in terror. They were playing and having a beach day. And then restaurants as well. Do you have any particular associations with the seaside, the ocean, the beach, the boardwalk? Is it a place you've been before, a place you'd like to go? A place that represents something else in your mind?
I mean, honestly, not really. I'm much more of a mountain person. I don't like to go to the beach. Like I only go to the beach because my son wants to go, So I have to take him, or like when my friends call me up and they plan, I'm like, okay, fine. But I would never plan a trip to the beach. Like to me, it's boring. I love the mountain. I love the forest, the greenery. I love to go up, So I don't really like anything beach related.
Interesting. Okay, that is interesting. So there's when at the time you had this dream, was your son already born?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That was just an idea that maybe because of the sun, the beach, but excuse me, swallowed some spit wrong. It happens. Yeah. It is. I'm kind of the same way. So I'm trying to pick out separate my own thing. I'm more of a mountains and rivers and lakes type of guy myself too. I like being up in the trees, and the ocean's kind of like, there it is. It's big. I don't want to go in there. And I don't like getting sand in my underwear. All of that. Yeah. So there's some people who are like, they just love the beach, the sun, the waves, and the smell. The smell I hate too. So I want to put all that out of my mind and try and focus on your experience, but you're finding the same way. Yeah. So there may be something about putting yourself in a place you don't want to be for the experience of this dream. I don't know what that means. And the idea that you couldn't see the ocean, you didn't want to, or it was not able to be seen, or it wasn't relevant to the scene itself. I don't know if anything comes to your mind when you think of it from that perspective.
I mean, it does make sense that given that the first part of the dream was really, discomforting and everything like that. So it would make sense for it to happen in a place where I don't usually enjoy. So it's not like it wasn't a peaceful place from the start, and that would have changed how I react to it. So it's not like I was in a mountain, which I was like happy first, and then this thing happened to me, and I associated both the location and the experience. It was already in a place where I don't enjoy being anyway. So yeah. It's interesting to see that it's like the place was related to the experience that I was going to have.
Yeah, and it kind of makes it easier to say, let go. Well, I didn't want to do that anyway. I don't want to be here. That's fine. I'll let that go. It's not that hard to let go.
I like that.
That's what I was thinking as well. And
it's not like keep me in the mountains. I'm happy. No.
Get
me away from the beach.
I don't want to die. I like this place. It's like maybe dying's not so bad. I can leave here. That's no worries. Get me away from the beach. That was a thought that occurred to me along the line. But then also this experience that happened to you was, in your mind, something that was externally kind of thrust, like a knife thrust upon you or thrust into you. There's that interesting imagery as well, by someone from behind, so unknown, unseen, and then you never know who they are. You don't get a distinction. It's almost like the person was a vehicle for the action and otherwise irrelevant.
Yes.
It was the action itself that was important.
Yes, to make a note of that as well, because I didn't even really care about the person. So there was no wondering who that is, why they did this, what's happening. It kind of felt like he was part of the story, so he needed to do it and like move on. So even my thought process, even when I was in fear, scrolling and everything, I wasn't thinking about him. It was like, oh my God, come back. Who are you? Why did you do this? It's just like, okay, fine. You did it. Move on.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing that your mind did too, as well, is that the experience of the stabbing, the pain, the blood, and then everything else that followed was more important than the person. You're not focused on what am I trying to say? It's not like you had an object, a specific person in your mind that you felt animosity towards, and you're acting out a drama of them harming you. It could have been an act of God, so to speak. It could have been just an arrow missed and flew over. Someone threw a frisbee from the beach and it hit you in the head. It could have been anything random, even.
Exactly.
But it is interesting that it was involuntary. This wasn't an action you took. This wasn't you, say, going to a cliff and saying, "I'm going to jump." It was an external force acting upon you. In some way that seems relevant to the story as well. I'm not really sure how yet. I don't know if anything comes to your mind of like a forced an external force causing change in some way or initiating a process. Something. My mind's playing around with that idea.
Thing is, I haven't experienced much like in my life where things were, so like most of my adult life, basically, I've taken all my decisions on my own, and I've been in control of mostly everything. So obviously ups and downs happen, but overall, in terms of the choices that I made, like when I, moved to another country, the moment I got married, everything, my job, all that has always been me. Like nothing has been forced on me. So maybe the only thing I can think of being forced is the situation at home, because I do come from a broken home. And when I was a kid, my dad left, and I lived with my mom. I was with my sister and everything. So that is the one thing I would actually think of that was kind of like forced on me, or like the reality is like, this is it, live with it. It's only like that. Anything else, I've made my own choices and just like lived like that. So
fair enough. So it may not be linked to any specific actual real world event, just like the dream itself is not related to, say, a specific trauma or dilemma you were facing in a very concrete way, but more of this I don't know. I guess it seems relevant, but I'm not sure how to put it into context. That idea of it could be these feelings you were having of missing out on the spiritual side of life, and having that thrust back upon you, having that part of your mind that was suppressed. We could say like this coiled spring reacting and saying, "You can't ignore this. So I'm not going to let you. This is happening. You're going to face this idea." Maybe that's the imagery. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
It does make sense. It does make sense because even looking back at everything that happened afterwards, it kind of worked, because I have been full on, like full gear into this whole world of spirituality and physical and philosophy and everything. So it did kind of like, if this was the goal of my brain, it achieved it very successfully. You know what I mean? Like, so it does make sense that it kind of like wake up, like it was shaking me. Like, you need to align yourself with what you want to do or what you're here to do or whatever. So I agree with that. Yes, it makes sense. It does make sense.
Very good. Yeah. Well, and then also we're jumping around a little bit here, but the idea of death is, it's a strong metaphor in our minds for beginnings, endings, specifically endings, but also transitions, changes. It's like the turning of the seasons on Earth is the planet where you live dies in winter and comes back in spring. So we get this metaphorical cycle in our mind of life and death and rebirth. And so very often in dreams, death is a metaphor of our mind for the end of something and the beginning of something else. And actually your experience of it was this kind of terror of, oh my God, the end is coming. And then this kind of transformative experience of, oh, but that's okay. Something else is beginning, closing a door, opening a window type of thing. So is that kind of speaking to you a little bit?
It does. And I think it's also more representative of the death of the mundane, if you want, or of that period of my life where I no longer cared about any of the topics that used to matter to me so much. So it did feel like, because that feeling of peace and warmth and everything that came after it felt like it's aligned with who I am, So that emotion of like, I'm going home, like the death experience, or that, okay, this is all fine, this is all okay. I would relate it, like you're saying, to me coming back to who I truly am in terms of what my interests are and what I believe I'm here, alive to do, and my purpose, and what my soul is aligned with, and stuff like that. So I get it.
Yeah, and that brings us also to the kind of experience of that letting go and the reassurance. And you've got the children that come to you, and the knowing that they are angels, a force of good, in a metaphorical sense, but then also the approval, say, of your of all the people that this is something that like, say, spiritual forces and earthly forces are in agreement, in alignment on this transition being a good thing.
Yes,
there is that.
Well, I was just thinking about it now, actually, before you said, because I was thinking that actually the approval of those people and their blessing and how they accepted this, it does align, because it kind of tells me that whatever path that I'm going to be on now will actually be beneficial to those around me and those who I love or who love me, and those people in my life. So it's kind of like, it's showing me that the path that I will be on from that moment will lead to good for me and for them. So we are all in kind of agreement with each other. Like, they're seeing me back on track, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Or at least in your mind, this is what you were thinking, experiencing at the time, is that so when I say that spiritual and physical forces aligned, I want to separate that from making a declarative statement about the real world saying this is, in my opinion, or in truth, the way it should be. But that in your mind at that time is like to satisfy these two needs, to reconcile them in some way was being applauded by the dream figures. So yeah, I think that's very important too.
Yes.
And then we keep bouncing back and forth too, but thank you. But I've got some other notes too in terms of the. I thought it was an interesting imagery to say, rather than why did your mind choose say you got stabbed, you collapsed, and you started to crawl. You didn't go to the beach. You didn't head that direction. You went to the people busy about their own lives who ignored you. And then there's that imagery as well of putting your hand on the step, which steps are often very metaphorical of climbing towards a goal or in some senses an obstacle that needs to be traversed by effort. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, but you just put your hand on the first step and you're like, this is never going to work. This is not even the direction I need to go. And these people don't care. Yeah. They're not even looking at me. They don't hear me. They don't want to. They're busy with their own lives. There seems to be something in there as well. I don't know if that brings anything to mind.
Honestly, not really in terms of like how it would be a reflection of something that I was going through, because I'm very blessed with the people around me and my friends and my family and everything. So I don't have these like any abandonment fear or stuff like that. Like I don't have that. So it surprises me that I would kind of reflect that in a dream where I would feel like I'm not heard or I'm being ignored, because I don't feel that on a daily basis.
Sure. So in your personal circle,
I'm really blessed in that aspect. So
yeah, in your personal circle, you've got a good, social group and friends and family who care about you. There may be something in there metaphorical of the world itself, like the rest of the population that don't know you, that if you were to look to them for help with this experience, look for them to solve it, contribute, save you in any way.
Well, I'm not someone who asks people for help.
Sure.
So I don't know if that is, if it means I find it very, very, very difficult to ask anyone for any sort of help.
Like, I don't like to do it either.
Kill myself doing it than just asking, hey, can you help me with this or that? So I don't do that at all, like even till now. So I'm not sure if that could be any meaning. Is there anything there?
There may be something in your mind just in general, or there was at the time that just recognized that if you go, it's the idea of looking in the wrong place and how quickly you realize that was the wrong place. And and also there's something in there that you didn't turn to the beach for help. There was something about this human civilization. There's like business and there's people and they're busy and it's specifically restaurants. But you didn't go to the people on the beach as in looking for help from the people on the beach. I don't know what it feels like. There's something in there about why that choice, but we may never get it. There's some images I'm like, I can't put it together. But it is interesting that once you've
it's an interesting note. Yeah. It's an interesting note.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you'll think about it. You come up with something. You can always leave a comment in the video description. You know, if it occurs to you, or it might occur to you. And don't forget, viewers, that this is another content creator. He's got his own show, so he'll probably have some comments on this. You should definitely check out Paradigm Shift, his podcast. But it is interesting as well that say you turned in a direction that you quickly realized was not the right path. It wasn't going to get you what you need, and then. Just like the involuntary stabbing that was thrust upon you, the solution or the solace comes from the beach in the form of these two children, and that you didn't ask for it, you didn't seek it, you didn't crawl towards it in your fear and pain. It came to you.
Yep.
In the same way. So it seems like there's a repeating theme in that. Is that bringing anything to mind?
There could be actually, yes, because. Now that I think about it, the people who are in restaurants and just going about their lives, I think this kind of represents to me basically like the whole world, or like, everything that is like even an aspect of me that I was going through at the time. So it was just like this going on about your dates, doing the regular stuff, going out, eating out, so nothing special about them. And I think that kind of is a good reflection to what I didn't want to be part of anymore, like that. So I think that there could be something there, because I immediately like, okay, you're not going to help me anyway. Like, I kind of knew you were not going to help me. There was a sense of like, I'm asking for help, but at the same time, I know I'm not going to get it back. So I knew the type of, I wouldn't say people, but the type of life that I'm going after, and I'm not going to get any answers or solutions or whatever. So, but when I flipped and I didn't ask for another one as well. So I didn't look at the beach and ask those people for help. I think they both represented different aspects of life that I don't want to be part of anymore. But when those kids came and ran towards me, it was like forced, but a good kind of like forcing it, like it's not invasive, but it's more like, like come, like that. So
yeah, for sure. And then when we say forced, I mean technically they forced their attention on you, but that in a way that doesn't feel like force. It doesn't feel like they were doing something against your will. It was a welcome addition rather than
yes.
Gotcha. And then that was the other thing that was kind of fascinating to me, was the knowledge of the ages of the children, that it was specifically a boy and a girl, that one was the girl was specifically 2 years older. I was going to get into whether you had siblings that were of that age apart.
I mean, my sister is older than me. She's 5 years older than me.
Okay.
And honestly, when you asked me, when I told you about the age and everything, I don't know if it's related or not or whatever, but I was 8 when my parents split. So I'm not sure if that kind of like has any association with the boy, because he was 8 as well in the dream.
Yeah, it could.
So that's the only kind of association to something that I've experienced or whatever. This is what I could think of.
But in the dream, definitely, you didn't look at the boy and say, that's me. I mean, you didn't have that experience in the dream.
No.
Okay.
No, at all.
So it could be related.
It was just like two separate beings.
Yeah. And it could be related. I don't want to assume that it is, and I don't want to rule it out. But it is interesting. So there was a boy and a girl that were, and you do have an older sister. She's a little older than that. But maybe there's something in there in terms of, and then it may be also relevant that the girl was the one that put your head in her lap, stroked your hair, comforting, like, I mean, we've seen many iconic representations of that. If you've watched any media ever, it's a thing. It's, of course you would see that. And it may exist, it seems to exist across cultures. And then the idea that, so she offered a more physical comfort of rest your head, I'll pet your brow. And he offered a more verbal or intellectual reassurance. That was an interesting thing.
Yeah,
too.
I think it's, I think that would be, I mean, I wouldn't have thought of it at the time, but now with, more stuff that I read and everything, and I could relate it to how I see male and female energy.
Sure.
Because, and how a female energy is more nurturing and comforting, whereas male energy is more rigid and more intellectual and thinking. So it's a bit different, and that's how it was represented at the time, because she was really, she wasn't telling me that it's okay and like soon it'll be over. She wasn't saying anything. She was just like literally just like comforting me with her hand, and like very physical and very warm, whereas he kind of like took a more intellectual rigid role of like, it's okay, everything's gonna be fine, you're gonna get through this, stuff like that. So I think there's something there,
and that is exactly what I made in my notes too, that okay, we've got, say, broad strokes, masculine, feminine energy, and the feminine does tend to be, say, more physically comforting, and the masculine energy would be more intellectually focused. And what I mean by that is that a woman, say, would be more likely to, oh, you're hurt, let me give you a hug, let me kiss your boo-boo. And but a man, say, would be more likely to, well, what did you screw up and how can we fix it? And let's talk about this. And, that kind of stuff, that more focused on, let me tell you what's happening. And the girl's like, let me just, but you had both types of energy comforting you at the same time. And you had this physical experience of the pain fading away physically, and then the intellectual comfort of knowing it's okay. Everything that's happening is normal. It's not going to be a bad thing. Let this happen. So you've got this, the yin yang is one of my favorite symbols of all time. And actually I've said this before, it is, in my opinion, the earliest symbol representing the name of God. In my opinion, that's this wholeness, duality type of thing.
I definitely agree with that when it comes to the yin yang and the whole aspect of duality and what it means and it represents. Sadly, it's been misrepresented or understood over time, and in different cultures and religions and stuff. But no, I understand that, and I'm a very big believer of the two, of like duality in everything, basically, when it comes to masculine, feminine energy, when it comes to different aspects of God or whatever. And it's something you said, which is interesting. It's like she kind of took away my physical pain, but he took away the fear. So one kind of healed me on a physical level, and one healed me on a emotional level.
Yeah, for sure. And that knowing and sensing type. Yeah. And that's more duality. There's like layers of duality in the mind, in the body, and in everything. Everything's blowing my own mind here. Now I'm getting lost in this. Wow. I'm having a wow moment.
You're going to have a very nice dream tonight, I guarantee.
I hope I can remember it. That'd be nice. One of these days, I'm actually going to do an episode where there's a couple of dreams I remember, and actually from 20 years ago, because I wrote them down as fast as I could. And maybe that's something I need to start trying to do again. We get to publish my own dream journal someday.
Dream journal is the best way, by the way, to keep having dreams.
For sure. Yeah, and to remember them, because you have that that jumble of images and sensations, and if you get them out on paper, that's why I do. That's why I do this. Is why I take notes while we're doing. I can't remember. I can't remember shit. So, I don't know if I had any other specific notes. No, I think that probably was everything I had off the top of my head. Like, I make these little carrots when I'm going around. I think I hit all the little high points that seemed relevant to me. Is there more imagery where you're like, you want to look at a second time, or take a sharper focus on, or more things you want to try to understand?
Not really, actually. I have a very a more holistic view of it now. It's kind of like you said, because there is a spiritual aspect to it, and there is a psychological aspect, and I feel like in a way I'm more in peace, and I like the fact that they overlap each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, a repressed memory coming back in this form. I'd be like, okay, I've had those all my life, whatever. But and it's not just like some prophetic dream or something that would not be able to analyze or understand. But I feel like there is a very good balance, yin yang, back to that, of the spiritual and the psychological, because it was like I needed a sort of like a wake up call to come back. And it took the form of that topic, which is really interesting to me, and it's something that I've always felt like attracted to, and something I want to pursue, and something. So it makes sense. It makes sense to me. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So at this point, you feel like you have a better, deeper understanding of where the dream was coming from, what it was trying to tell you. Good deal.
Yeah. And I'm actually, it feels good that that from then till now, I've actually been on a path, and it's good to feel like, that thing did work. You know what I mean? Like, whatever shape it took, it's kind of like, hey, that actually did work. Looking back. So yeah, I like it.
I don't remember who said it. I looked this up a while ago, but someone's quote was, "Pay attention to your dreams; they know the way." They are trying to tell you something, nice. Whether you think they're coming from God or a spiritual source or prophecy.
I'm going to use that for my next episode.
Do something. Yeah, for sure. It's not my quote, but I love it. I can't remember who said it. Well, yeah, I think we got to a pretty good place. It didn't take all day to get there, and I don't need to keep you forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, just in conclusion, I guess I will say, dear friends, that is another episode of Dreamscapes. We had our friend here today, Sergio Halabi, and he is the host of the podcast Paradigm Shift, which you can find on Instagram at paradigm.shift.experience, the full word there. Anything else you'd want to say about your work, about your connections, any other ways for people to find you?
No, it's okay. Just come follow me on my Instagram, and you'll find all the podcasts, and you'll find other stuff that I do as well. I share different thoughts and ideas that I get, and I just want to thank you so much for having me on the show. I really, really like it. When I first saw it, and I watched a lot of episodes, and I couldn't stop, and I really like the idea, and I think you're doing a great job. So thank you so much for having me. Really.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being here and sharing with us. And that's all it takes, folks. Just contact me. I'll talk to anybody. And usually we have a pretty good time about it, and things are chill. And yeah, that's it. Hey, don't forget to look in the description links below. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, buy my book if you want to, that kind of thing. I got a podcast, all that good stuff. And I'll just say thanks for listening.